Number 2. Let me jump in here. And you'll notice with these, we haven't really talked about these questions all that much. These questions are virtually almost straight from the chapter. And you'll notice on here, let's see, managed democracy. This is on page 284. No, it's not on page 284. That's my bad. Managed democracy is basically talking about the president, or the executive leader, I should say, being kind of the all-powerful person and guaranteeing, if you will, that there's going to be cooperation. There's going to be cooperation between the executive and the legislature.
That relates back to question 1.
Number 1. What's number 1?
What do you call a system guaranteeing cooperation between legislature and executive?
Oh, that's my mistake. You know, I brought the wrong book in here. Forgive me on this. Or I put the wrong numbers. No, that's okay. That's okay. Managed democracy. No, I'm not going to be able to find it. That serves me right, doesn't it? I brought in the wrong one because I generally keep these things numbered. Well, let's come back to this one. Let's come back to this one since the camera's running and I don't want to waste all the film time. What else do you have in reference to the chapter questions?
Hidden hand presidency.
The hidden hand presidency is basically talking about trying to work behind the scenes. It's basically just talking about trying to work behind the scenes on this. And this was actually on page 286, and it's dealing with Eisenhower. Eisenhower did some things really behind the scenes, and you would think, to be perfectly honest with you, that he really wasn't all that active based on what he did publicly, what he said publicly, but behind the scenes, he was 100% involved. What else have you got?
That's it for me.
Okay. Anybody with anything else? All right, let's jump to the courts. Let me turn this light back off because I've lost the glare on this, or I've gained the glare on this. Let me go back in here to Chapter 17. What kind of questions do y'all have in reference to any of the terms from Chapter 17? Because this is going to be the bigger one, to be perfectly honest.
Positive law. Positive law.
Positive law was the one where I had the $ on the board. And the idea behind positive law, positive means action.
You mean like where they put into law, like they're going to spend money on something?
Actually, we were talking about money in the context of equal pay. Positive law means that the legislature, a legislative body, will specifically actively pass a statute or some form of provision designed to regulate some kind of conduct.
So like minimum wage?
So minimum wage could be an example of a positive law. Or the idea that men and women are not going to be discriminated against on account of their gender.
Okay.
Or people wouldn't be discriminated against on account of race, for example. These kinds of things. ERA, had it passed, the Equal Rights Amendment would have been a positive law, not necessarily because everybody agrees with it, but because it was specifically passed to address a problem. The judges aren't doing this. It's not something that's a higher power. It's something that was passed in a positive action by a legislature. Go ahead.
So affirmative action would be an example of a positive law?
Affirmative action could be an example. It could be an example. It could be. But focus on it in terms of something that a legislature specifically does. So when they start talking, a minimum wage would be a really good example because they're passing a minimum wage and it says you're going to be paid at this level. When you think about it, it seems like natural law would say that men and women should be paid the same, but they needed positive law in order to put that on the books to actually enforce it. So even that one is a little bit of a dubious example to a certain extent. Affirmative action could be, but then again, that's been struck down a few times. So that's why I would hesitate on that one.
So like when you have something like criminal law, and you're doing it like positive law, so if you would say like if you don't pay your workers this minimum wage, then you go to jail would be like criminal law of the minimum wages thing?
I'm sorry, say what?
Okay, so positive law is like saying you have to do minimum wages, but like for the if the employer decides not to pay their workers minimum wages and they get caught, then they'd be prosecuted under criminal law then.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, because that would be the state going against. And see, that's the trick. And with these laws, okay, natural, positive, common, constitutional, criminal, and civil, make sure that you're clear with those. Make sure that you're clear with those and the differences. So positive law is basically going to be legislatively passed law, a specific provision. What was natural law? Or actually, since you brought up criminal law, what was the trick with criminal law? Criminal law is money.
No, it's the state against an individual.
Okay, criminal law is going to be where the state goes against an individual because they've broken some form of a statute. The state is basically going to be enforcing its own laws against lawbreakers. And the idea in this instance, what do you have to lose in a criminal case?
Your freedom.
Your freedom.
Everything.
Everything. You could lose money in terms of fines.
Reputation.
You're going to lose freedom in terms of jail time. And most importantly,
You could lose your life.
what's that? Sanity.
You could lose your life.
Conceivably lose
You
that,
can
but
get death
life,
penalty.
because you could get the death penalty. And life is the ultimate thing. What's the standard of proof in a criminal case?
Very, very high.
Beyond reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, it's going to be the highest level because the sense is that your freedom and your life are going to be very, very important. Now, when you think about this civil law, money. Okay, what's the gist in civil law? Can you give me an example of something?